Welcome everybody, this is Jason and the name of this week's workshop is The Illustrated Woman. This is a follow-up to a previous workshop that I did called The Illustrated Man. The other workshop was about building overlay boxes by hand, and this one is about a new method for building overlay boxes that relies on DBPF Scripter. So let's have a look. Why aren't most overlay boxes optimized? So we have what I refer to as ancient wisdom. Basically, there's an OG creator who built a reliable tutorial, and at a certain point, this becomes the gospel. This becomes the way that it has to be done. And Quintessia, for the time, wrote a really good tutorial, but we have found new methods and new procedures to optimize overlay boxes. And we'll kind of get into that today. What are the pros of generating an overlay box with DBPF Scripter? So for one, you have fewer errors and a faster build time. If you're doing it by hand, if you follow along with the Illustrated Man, for example, on a good day, it's going to take you 25 to 35 minutes per overlay just to make sure that you've gotten all the details right. Whereas with DBPF Scripter, that's going to take you 20-25 minutes start to finish, depending on the script and depending on how many images that you're trying to build into overlays. Disclaimers and credits. So credit where credit is due. The workshop uses W. Howard's accessory box template. This is the one available on Pick and Mix Sims that we will be looking at. And I'm using DBPF Scripter version 1.6, also on Pick and Mix Sims. The options for Supernatural Sims are now configurable, and that is based on an article written, I guess you would call it an article, it's not really a tutorial, by themeasureofasim with additional research by Epi. So shout out to both of those creators. And I've also linked this in the resource post. And finally, without the tireless work of William and Latmos, what I'm presenting here would not be very exciting because they did the majority of the work. I am kind of in the weeds when they begin discussing scripting. To get started, we grab the latest version of DBPF Scripter, and this is an old screenshot, but now we have version 1.6 available and it has this cool new error checking feature. On a separate page in Pick and Mix Sims, link is also in the resource post, we would need to download the type of overlay, the correct template for the overlay box that we want to build. So we have simple overlays with box, then the overlay box itself, and multi-overlays with box. So just depending on your needs, you would grab the correct template. For the purpose of today's workshop, I'm going to be doing simple overlays with box and multi-overlays with box. So what's the difference? Simple overlays, you can see that it's the same tattoo can be applied in roughly the same place on the bodies of both genders, and there is no face overlay. Whereas with complex, you can build a face overlay, and also you can use different tattoos or different overlays for if the two bodies are mapped differently. So separate tattoos for male and female in this case. The other major difference, and I can take credit for this one. So the OG pose boxes and overlay boxes, they were mapped a little bit funny. They were mapped upside down. So you had to make the image upside down in Photoshop. Whereas with the new template, you just build the swatch as you normally would for anything else, and the scripter will do the rest. It will replace it for you. I've gotten questions, how do you actually build the overlay? And I didn't cover that in the previous workshop, so we will look at that here. I've created a couple of body templates. Those are available in the resource post. You just open one of those up in Milkshape. Then in the materials tab, you create 3 new materials, rename them body, face, and scalp, and you load the appropriate textures into each material. Then you go back to the groups tab and you assign one mesh group to each of the materials. And in the 3D viewport, it should look something like this now. Then open Photoshop, you open the appropriate template to see what the overlay looks like when it's placed over the map of a Sim's body, something like this. So I just open the template and I paste a little star over his belly. And then I save that with a different name. We don't want to overwrite the template. Then when we load the new material into the body group in Milkshape, it's going to look like this. So this is roughly what it's going to look like in game. Then to finish up, we just hide the bottom layer and we save the little star or the tattoo, body hair, or whatever as a PNG. And then we're ready to use it with DBPF Scripter. We're going to have it look at the actual script. And for this, we need Excel. So we open up the Excel file. If you're downloading it for the first time, your computer is probably going to say, hey, this is suspicious. So what we need to do is enable the macros, and I will get into that. And then we fill out the top portion. We fill out the box short name. This is a name. This is the name of the package file. And then we have the scene graph name. That's the name in the scene graph rename wizard. And then the graphic, this is the image that it uses. Catalog name, this is the CTSS description. And the catalog description, this is the CTSS, the catalog name is the title of the object in BIMO catalog in CTSS. And then the catalog description is the description part in CTSS, and that can support multiple lines of text, whereas the catalog name can't. Then we have compatibility. Can this be used with plant sims, vampires, zombies, etc.? We can check that. It's by default disabled for werewolves, servos, and Bigfoot. Then we have an additional option, include remove all. So there's a remove all option. If you want it to be able to remove every overlay in the box, you would check that. Or if you don't want that remove all option in the pie menu, then you leave that unchecked. And then we have include remove group. So if you're using separate groups, for example, if you're doing body overlays and you have them broken up by hair color, black, brunette, redhead, or blonde, you can build those as groups. And I will show you a little bit more about that as we get to the script. And then remove groups, so you'll be able to remove all blonde or all brunette, for example. And then we get to the bottom part. So name, that's the name of the actual overlay. Then menu group, this is if you want to separate it by group, for example, hair color. We could, in the menu group, we could put blonde, and all of the blonde would be like the sub menu of the actual object menu. And then from blonde, you will be able to choose the different overlays. And then group ID, if you leave that blank, the scripter will generate it by itself. But if you want a specific overlay to have a specific collection number, you can put it there. Then image, this is the name with the full extension. So image1.png. And then the scene graph name, this is the same thing, but without the PNG. File part, same thing. Over on the right, because it's simple, the only options that we have are, can it be applied to both genders or just one, just unisex, and then which ages. You can exclude, for example, young adult or teen if you don't want it to be applied there for some reason. If I forget to add PNGs, one hack that you can use on a separate spreadsheet, you enter the name of the texture, and then you enter .png, and you'll use the concatenate formula, and it will put it all together. And then you can just copy that and paste it over into the name of into the image column. So running the actual scripter, the way that we do this, once we're done with the spreadsheet, once we filled in all the data, then we save that as an ODS. We make sure to close that before we open the scripter. Then template folder, we point out where the template, the source with all of the PNG files and all that is. And then for the folder that we want it to be saved in, we point to the output folder and we give our project a name in the third field there. Then once we click go, it's going to run the script. And if there are no errors, you'll see this happy smiley face and you won't see any red lines. For multi, it's really very similar to the basic one, but here we have the option, we have a face overlay dropdown, and that's going to say no face overlay, common face overlay, or individual face overlay. So what's cool about this, you can apply a different overlay, for example, to male and female, or you can apply a different overlay to adult and teen. So you have a few more options with multi. Remove group, remove all is the same, and then the supernatural compatibility is the same. And then we just fill out the bottom part, and you can't see it in this screenshot because it's a larger field, but over on the right, there's a different column for face overlays. And that's pretty much it. You would save it as an ODS, and then you would set up the scripter the same way. You would run the script the same way, and it's going to save it in an output folder. Before I get started, a note about DBPF Scripter. We would, to get set up, we would first need the latest version of DBPF Scripter from Pick and Mix Sims. So there's a link in the resource post. And the latest version is 1.6. I recommend 1.6 because it has that error checking feature. And then we would need to go to the overlay box templates. These are the templates, including all of the scripts, basically everything that you need to generate your own overlay boxes. Just grab the template that's appropriate for you. For this one, I'm using both simple and multi. Once you've done that, well, obviously you would need overlays. I'm not going to spend time on building overlays, but I will show you the tool that I have set up for that. So we just open Milkshape, and then we hunt down our project folder, and I will start with the dude. Okay, so we've got just a regular body template. He's got 3 different groups: body, face, and scalp, but we don't have any materials assigned. So we go to the materials tab. We click on that new button 3 times. We start with material 1. We click this first material bin, and let's start with face. And then, let me see, we rename material 1 to face. So we know what we're dealing with. Then we go to material 2. In the bin, we load up scalp, and we rename it to scalp. That one's not super necessary because there aren't really any scalp tattoos, but it looks weird if your mannequin doesn't have a scalp that has a body and a face. And then we load up the body texture. We rename that body. Then we go over to groups. We select body, go to materials, make sure that body is selected up here, and we assign. We deselect body, we select face, go to materials, select face, and assign. Then we deselect face and we select scalp, and we do the same thing. So now we've got a basic mannequin. And then what we can do from here, we open Photoshop or any other image editing tool, and we just overlay whatever we want as a tattoo or body hair or what have you onto the texture, just to give you a rough idea of how it looks. And then once you're done, you save that with the body texture below it, and you're able to test how it looks here. So we just grab this, and you know, whatever, you can use your own skin edits or what have you. And then in this example, so he's got a star on his belly. This is kind of the overlay I went with. This is approximately what it's going to look like when we actually get it into game. Same thing applies to female Sims. You just use the template to kind of build your overlay. Then when you're done, go back into Photoshop, hide the bottom layer so you just have the overlay but not the skin, and save it as a PNG because that needs transparency. And that's that. So we go simple overlay box version 1. And we go multi overlays with box version 1. And then, see, I'm doing it this way because if you start from scratch, it's going to ask you about macros, and I want that pop-up message. So we extract. This is simple. So let's get started with simple. I just want the template data. So we go back here and we will start with sneeches. All of this is in the resource post. All of these overlays, I've already gone and done these. So before we open this in Excel, what we need to do, we right click, properties. And then the file came from another computer and might be blocked or help protect the computer. We need to unblock that because we need to enable the macros for this. Then we click apply. Let's pop that open. We enable content. Then box short name. This is the name of the actual box file. Sneeches. Keep it simple. I'm not worried about a GIT. If you leave this blank, the scripter will generate a new GIT for you. Box SG name. So I'm just going to go all lowercase. Sneeches overlay box. Then graphic. So what we need to do here, why am I not seeing it? So I just got to rename. I copy the whole thing with the file extension, and I just paste that right in there. Sneeches overlay box. Good enough for the CTSS. And then if you want multiple lines here, I recommend just write it out on a notepad and then paste it in there because for example, if I hit down arrow, it's not going to move. If I hit enter, it's going to move me to the next cell. So you would need to like write it out on something. And if there are multiple lines, use enter to line break like a notepad and then just paste it into the box. But for the purpose of this workshop, we're not doing that. We're not messing with supernatural. We don't need remove group for this occasion because we're not using groups. So here, we'll look at the different stars. Let's go blue star. So we got blue, we've got lime, and we've got pink, and we've got red and yellow. And we're not using menu groups for this one because it's fairly straightforward. Oh, and very important here, we changed the number of overlays to 5 because we only have 5 total. And if you've enabled macros, it will just make the list that much shorter. Then we need our images. So we use this same trick. We just rename star blue PNG. Yeah. And I'm just going to paste that all the way down because those are, so we got star lime. Then we go star pink. We go star red. And we go star yellow. And then scene graph name. I'm just doing the same thing without the .png. And we just grab those like that. And I'm going to paste those. And because I want it to be applicable to both genders and all age groups, I'm not going to mess with it there. And pretty much that's that. So go ahead and save this just as is. Then we go save as. This is important. So this is a Microsoft Excel worksheet with macros enabled. We need to save it as Open Document Spreadsheet or ODS. So we make the edits in Excel and then we just save our work and then save as an ODS. And we're good to go on the simple one. Or before I run the script on the simple one, let's do the multi-overlay. So we extract, and once again, all I really need is the template stuff. So we copy the template stuff. And this time I'm going to the folder that says soups. And once again, we find that XLSM file, we right click, we go to properties, and we unblock. So this one's going to be a little bit more interesting because we have different overlays for male and female. And we have one that has a mask and one that doesn't. So we enable content. Soups overlay box. We don't need a GID because DBPF Scripter will generate that for us. Box SG name, just as before. Graphic. So we need the one that's for the overlay box. So we just copy soups.jpg, we paste it right in there. Soups overlay box for the catalog name. We enter a description. And we're not going to mess with it. We don't need groups for this. And this time, there are only 2 overlays. So you see that, and it magically just reduces the number of lines based on the number of overlays that you input. So I'm going to go common face overlay. Let's start out with Superman. We don't have a menu group. We don't have a group ID. SG name. Oh, sorry. No, SG name and file part, those remain the same. It's a matter of personal choice. I just keep them the same because well, here. What does the actual description thingy say? Base name for the overlays scene graph resource. So this is what it's going to name it inside the package. Should not contain spaces or underscores. And then this is the name of the package. So this is what the scene graph is named inside, and this is how it's going to identify it when the scripter builds it. This is it. So internal name, external name, basically. Then, so for soups, we just rename that like so. And then I'm just going to copy that and pop that into teen mail because it's the same for adult and teen. And then this one's a little bit different. See, this one is solid filled, and for Supergirl, it's kind of empty. So we go. No, that's not what I wanted to do. For adult female. Hey, Supergirl. Now, I don't have a face for Supergirl, so I'm going to use a blank 512 by 512 PNG for my face. This is important because the Batman overlay actually does have a face. So then, I mean, you can, if you choose to leave this one, you can choose to leave this one blank, like the yellow here. And if you do, it will just generate a generic face overlay for that, or it will use, no, it will use Epi's blank face template, which is fine. So we've got Superman. Let's start with Batman. So we just copy Batman. Batman goes here and also in teen mail. And then Batgirl. Be sure to copy PNG. All of the, where it says image here, all of these images, they need to have the file format included. And then Batman actually has a face mask. So mask Batman. When everything looks good, we give it a quick save. And then we go and save it as, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, you save the Excel template and then you save as ODS. Okay, and we can now close this. So we have configured the scripts for both. We open DBPF Scripter. And let's start with the Sneetches overlay. The Sneetches. We just select that's our input folder. And now I'm just going to delete those and start from scratch because I don't want any files that might have been left over for the others. Just going to name that Sneetches output. So we got the input folder is Sneetches, the output folder is Sneetches output, and we're going to name this this is the actual box name. So then we click go. And you can see it's doing all of the heavy lifting for you. It's renaming all of the resources. It's building out the box. It's linking the box resources to the overlays. And finished. Now let's do the same thing for the soups overlay box. So we go to soups. That's our input folder. And then we need to create an output folder. Soups output. Grab that one. And we'll do the same thing. We'll call this one soups overlay test. And we go. And it's doing its thinking. This is just 2 overlays, so it's going to be super quick. But for example, if you were doing, I've done them with like 50 or 100 overlays at a time. And if everything is successful, it will do it in just a few minutes, like 5 or 6 minutes tops. Okay, and that should be it. Okay, so now we've got our 2 overlay boxes to test, and we've got 4 sims to test them on. So let's see what happens. Now with the simple overlays, they're the same for male and female. Why is his face like that? Okay. And the first time that you apply an overlay is going to take a little bit, because if you have a lot of overlays in your game, it's reading all of those beacons. There it is. Okay, so we got one. And then you see that the other ones get added a lot faster. So all of the Sneech ones are working. Now, what's cool about William's template, you go remove. You can remove, if you don't remember which overlay you applied, for example, if you have a lot of overlays in the box, you can use remove all. And it does, yeah, it does the same thing. It will take a little bit longer, but for example, if I have, for example, my arrow accessories or body hair overlays, if you know there are like 50 some overlays in the box and you forget which one you applied, it's handy to have that. Okay, so Sneech's overlays works. Now let's try Soup's. And if I had wanted to be really picky, I could have made Superman just for males and then had a different built out Supergirl as a different overlay just for females. But I didn't. That's dope. There it is. So you can remove Batman or you can remove all. Let's try remove all. And we're missing Jet. And there you have it. That is how you build overlay boxes using DBPF Scripter.